All right. Well, I think it would be good to just hear when people are getting in where you guys are tuning in from. A classic on these webinars, but it's always funny to see, where in the corners of the world are people actually tuning in. So you're welcome to write in the chat. I think it's somewhere here. Actually, this is the third time we're using the Contrast Studio, so I'm not sure how it looks from a participant side, but there should be a public chat. And you're also able to ask any questions during the webinar in case there is something that is really burning inside of you that you want to get answered. And also we're having a Q&A session after where we're going to go in and start up answering all your questions if we don't get to do it through the actual talk track of this. And obviously the focus is how does Digital Sales Room helps you in 3 ways to increase sales velocity. And it's going to be super exciting. I have Koen here with me from Personio, and obviously Koen is one of the guys that has been talking a lot about Digital Sales Room. But it would be fun a little bit to hear, Koen, like, where did your interest from Digital Sales Room start, and what led you to this of sitting here today?
Yeah, no, cool, Mattias. Thanks very much, and I'm actually excited to talk about this topic. The funny thing is, I think more than, let's say, 18 months ago, that I did not know about digital sales rooms. And I dare to say that now. I mean, I will not claim that I know everything, but I've learned a lot in the last 18 months or so, working with digital sales rooms, understanding the space, understanding the impact and where it goes. Very excited, obviously, about the topic, and eventually not about digital sales rooms and software on itself, but what it really enables us as sellers and eventually as well buyers, especially knowing that most buyers buy for the very first time. So we really need to guide them in making the right decisions, and hopefully with all our efforts that it is the decision towards us as a vendor, right? So and maybe directly, Mattias, you also will give a small introduction by yourself, but Koen, out of Amsterdam, responsible within Personio for the Benelux operations, 12 years in SaaS, tech startups and scale-ups, all different kinds, and now 2 years with Personio. And yeah, I think, like I said, like 18 months ago, if you want to ask me the question, like, hey, how do you start with digital sales rooms? It was actually 2 of the most mature reps in our team who actually came up with, like, hey, we really run in those mid-market cycles. They're complex, they're long, multiple stakeholders, multiple presentations, a lot of information which we need to share over email. It becomes really cluttered. And also there we really see that a lot of those buyers, they do have experience in the field, but maybe not always particularly buying the software. And therefore they actually started to search for what are tools out there to assist, to help me, so I can educate and enable my buyer better. And this is where the journey started. And then I saw, of course, the impact. I saw positive feedback from our customers, to be honest, because it helped them to sell internally. And then I started diving deeper into, okay, what can we do more with digital sales rooms? So yeah, this is actually how the journey started, Mattias.
Super interesting. I think, I was engaging in one of your posts, I think 5-6 months ago now. And I was just swept away when we started talking about how much you actually knew about the platform. I was like, is he selling this himself? What's going on? I thought they were selling HR tools. But it just really shows, how much education there's still to be done, right? Like you didn't even know about it 18 months ago. And that's also why we're doing this webinar series. And for everybody else that is listening, I'm Mattias. I've been working with SaaS sales for now 10 years, close to 10 years. I think we're going into my 10 year now. Still a young gun in the game, but I've seen my fair share of complex buyer journeys. And today, I'm going to host the webinar series that is starting today with Koen. But over the course of the next 5 months, we're doing one webinar every month with different experts, where we're going to go deep diving into different ways the digital sales rooms impacts and helps you. And it's kind of a two-way coin here. One of the reasons why we're doing is to, of course, educate the market. There's a lot of you out there that are already familiar with the buzz, the new kid on the block, digital sales room. But in essence, it's also about ensuring that you're enabled to communicate this further on when you're talking to your team and your communities, because we really want to make sure out there that we're positioning ourselves and positioning digital sales room as a buyer enablement tool, instead of only talking about it from a digital sales process, good thing for sales reps. It's also there for our buyers, and we have to remember that because it's an important and vital part of it. As you can hear from Koen, he that was one of the main reasons why he started digging more into it. But I see, we have a lot of representations from Zurich to Stockholm, and London is with us today. I'm sure US will probably tune in on the recording. It's a bit early for them right now. But it's super interesting to be here. And I wanted to basically set the scene here and say, when you're talking about 3 ways to increase sales velocity, Koen, what's first like coming up to you? Like if you were to look at your own journey, where did you start seeing the impact on the sales journey?
I think eventually, if I really look at digital sales rooms, to me, it's kind of like an extension of your website, but then specifically for that buying cycle, for that specific company. And obviously, we really have a lot of insights on our website, what the customer is doing, where he or she is searching for. And I think everyone, hopefully in the room as well, like listening in, like how often are we after a demo sending a bunch of links, like PDFs, like customer case studies, like ROI calculators, and the entire shebang. And then you have a list of 5 or 8 URLs you're sending over email. And you don't have any clue, first of all, what they're clicking, where they're looking at, and what length. So those insights already, if you, of course, make sure that all the information which you've shared with potential buyers, and I think there less is more always, but get more insights if they're active on a digital sales rooms and where they specifically looking at, so you can assist them or you can follow up towards them a little bit more specific. I think that's something where it's the first thing as from a sales velocity perspective, which is a huge win, because typically you're sending out an email and the only thing which you most likely follow up, any thoughts? Did you read my email? Did you forget? Like it's, I would never send these kind of emails, but of course here you have more insights to become more relevant as a follow-up, which of course benefits both parties. So I think that's like the number one for me when it comes to sales velocity.
Yeah. So to sum it up, really ensuring that you can send out some content that creates engagement and also are relevant and personalized for the buyers to really create that momentum and also make it easier for them to loop in other stakeholders. Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
Yeah. And again, like it really helps the buyer buy internally, but let's be honest, it's not the name digital sales rooms also really enables still us as sellers and we as vendors. And we should not forget about that one. Like we are managing so many deals. So I think, yes, we have a CRM. Yes, we need to update the CRM. But I think you now also have all the content shared with your buyer, especially complex cycles. And that's in the digital sales room. So I think it also really helps yourself as an AE, as a seller to remain sane and have the overview of, hey, what did we discuss? Because that's maybe one thing I forgot actually to mention, Mattias. The reason why we started looking into digital sales rooms, we want to have a mutual action plan. We want to have a mutual action plan, which is not like, hey, these are the steps you as a buyer need to go through so we can get signed a contract. No, this is a mutual action plan, what we together need to do. So you will hit your deadlines eventually up to implementation and impact of tooling or whatever you're purchasing. Yeah. And there should be the focus. And I think that's the key way to gather a mutual understanding, a mutual action plan, and work from there as 2 parties.
Right. So talking about aligning the sales process with the actual buyer journey and ensuring that you're making that much more transparent. And it's just, in your CRM, we want to go through the stages, but also actually involving and collaborating with your buyers to really make sure that this becomes a frictionless process instead of you trying to force them into your sales process.
And what is important here is, again, just ask any of your buyers how many times prior in that current seat where they're right now in bought software before. Most of them, they haven't. So I think for us as sellers, there's a big advantage guiding the buyer. I've gone through these cycles multiple times with peers like yourself. These are typically the steps. So you can also make suggestions. And I think that's already a second thing when it comes to sales velocity. Let not too much in the hands of a buyer who never bought before. Guide them with, the steps are eventually towards a signature and implementation. Also there you can shorter sales cycles easily.
Yeah, I think what really resonates with me here that you're saying is also, what you're basically describing the best traits good salespeople and top performers are doing naturally. But here you're also talking about a room that helps them get more insights to use those more strategically, and also maybe identify some more stakeholders along the way that they wouldn't get if they were just using emails and PDFs and, chaos links all over the place that isn't like gathered in one room.
Yeah, correct.
Well, I think what would be interesting now is to mention to you guys, we have a giveaway. It's a mutual action plan framework. So it will essentially give you the best tips we have to create this mutual success plan or mutual action plan or whatever you like to call it, to help you guys reduce that sales cycle and make it much frictionless for your buyers. So after this webinar, that's going to be sent out to all of you, and everybody that's looking at the recording is going to get it as well. And if anybody hasn't gotten it, feel free to DM me on LinkedIn. You are more than welcome to ask any questions after the webinar as well. Before we go into this, I think a poll would be good, just to ask a little bit, get a little bit calibration of who is actually using digital sales rooms today. So on your screen, there should be a poll, hopefully. Let's cross our fingers. And it will be interesting to see if anybody is here already using it or considering or whatever is going on, just to get some statistics on where this audience is as well. All right, I see the numbers keep changing here. It's very interesting to see. So obviously, we have a bunch of educated buyers already here that are using digital sales room, which connects to the audience. As I think I warned you, Koen, a lot of the people that will watch this are people that already have heard about the new guy on the block digital sales room, but also, potentially some that are already using it. We have a few that are saying no, and then we have 15 that are considering it. So I think we're like pretty well diversified, and I think now is a good time to go into introducing the digital sales room as, what is it actually, just in a 2-minute short clip.
Yeah, actually, but Mattias, just to interrupt, if you don't mind, but I'm really interested that 63% of the people, and I see how many people are extending today, so it's quite a bit, already really working with digital sales rooms, because one of the things which I also, next towards my position within Personio, I'm also leading the co-chapter in Amsterdam for Pavilion, and I gave once a presentation on digital sales rooms, and I was really astonished actually that the majority of sales leaders or commercial leaders are actually not aware. And again, that was 6-9 months ago on digital sales rooms. So good to see that more and more people are using it. But obviously, that also makes that you need to use it even better, more personalized, because otherwise everyone will have the same eventually in their approach.
Yeah. I actually remember using this pitch on people, and I'm still doing. I'm like, well, you might have 1, 2, 3 years to start implementing this on a low level before you start to actually be able to use it more advanced in order to still differentiate yourself from your competitors. I remember when I started with GetAccept, the video feature was big, right? This was 5-6 years ago. We were like, we have a video you can put inside a proposal, and people were like, oh, wow, this is a differentiator. And we had a lot of people that were buying into the platform because of that. But we also had others that were like, nah, I don't think my buyers are ready for it yet. And now today, so many are advocating for videos, not just at a proposal, but also as a prospecting tool or mid-funnel cycle or explaining the business case and all of that. So it's just how do you stay ahead of the curve? That's what the right implementation of a digital sales room can help you with. Let's go into a little bit of a slide deck journey here. I'm not going to bore you guys too much with it. I just want to make sure we position this so everybody's on the same page. GetAccept, along with a few others, created the category of digital sales rooms back in 2021. Now, this happened together with Gartner, where they started to create the category. So it's now there. But back in 2021, before this, it wasn't there at all. We would try to be put into sales engagements or sales proposal, and we never really felt like we were, in the right category by ourselves. And finally, the digital sales room category was created. And I know Koen would probably rather call it buyer enablement room. Yes. But in this case, this is what we're leading with today and working strongly on. In every step we're doing, every vector we're working towards is keeping this position. And of course, with some great competitors out there, shout out to Aligned, Trumpet, Allego, that are also doing super well, but also the other ones that are forcing us to really make sure that we're, working the best we can. So this is a competitive space, I'm telling you. I think 60 new competitors came within the last 2 years in this space. But It would be fun to obviously hear some experience from you guys that are listening. What tools are you using out there? So feel free to share it if you dare. The B2B buyer journey, that is essentially what the digital sales room is tackling. This is a view over a modern buyer journey, and it's super complex, as you can see. There's so much that's required to go from a problem identification and then to getting to that final stage of being chosen as a vendor and getting into that go live plan. It's time to show, that you're actually delivering what you were promised them. There's so many people involved, and it just gets like a complex motorway. So a digital sales room enables you to control that process and keep everybody aligned, and also ensuring that you're having all the stakeholders identified much early on in the process, as long as you make sure to make it buyer-centric. And that's, I think, the big advice here. When you're using digital sales rooms, always think buyer-centric. Then you're really going to make sure to see that it's also being adopted, because your buyers will see the value of using it. Now, there's 3 ways to use a digital sales room. My multitasking skills needs to be prepared here. But you can start just sharing content you're already sending today, like Koen just explained. You can start sending a link, a meeting summary. Instead of sending an email, you're sending in a digital sales room, and then you start to utilize the tracking analytics. However, if you continue doing that, you'll probably be overhauled by your competitors that are starting to build these templates and assets in an actual digital sales room to also align the sales structure and make sure to make it super easy for sales reps to follow a specific structure. You can also go the advanced way. This is what we typically see with our customers when they've started to use our platform for maybe more than a year. Then we start to really set up and integrate this with sales ops, sales enablement, to really ensure this is fully integrated with the CRM systems, with the sales methodologies, and ensuring basically that the whole sales process and their framework they're working in aligns much more with how they want to interact with their buyers. And that is really where, if you take that level, you're going to stand out from your competitors, I assure you. And the way we sell can impact how we're winning deals today instead of what we're selling only.
Yeah, maybe on that note, I think that's really important. I think that's also what we saw on our side, right? So there were two AEs in my team, and they really were looking for their, again, more complex mid-market deals to have something as what then used to be a digital sales room. So we really started also really on the left. I think quite quickly we just saw the impact it could have, and obviously that's there are always different routes when eventually you also need to procure new tooling. I directly, for my team, and I'm only responsible for Benelux, really saw the impact. So therefore, we also wanted to really equip the entire team. And just to set the stage, I mean, we have like an SMB play and a mid-market play. So we found it also very important, even though maybe people say like, hey, it's only for mid-market deals, for larger complex deals. We really started leveraging even for like, let's say 50K ACV deals, because we saw that the speed of following up and the speed of sharing information really helped as well. So there we started drafting as well, like templates for SMB and templates for more the complex cycles. So, and then we moved into the intermediate stage, let's say. And I think now we are also 1.5 years in, and we are really now trying to see, okay, where can we really indeed further integrate this into our overall tech stack? And eventually even like, hey, this is not only for the initial sale, how can we leverage this as well for expansion or for renewals, and guide the customer further than only on our side the sale? So I think we also went towards those 3 stages in 18 months. And to be honest, we are now actually starting with the advanced stage. And I think there's no good way, bad or the other, right? So you can really start easy and simple. But the outcome definitely need to be that you need to move towards the advanced stage at a certain time to really make impact, because more and more companies will really leverage digital sales rooms.
Yeah, no, and so thanks for you to sharing this, because again, you guys are a great example of following this process and now looking more to working with it in an advanced way, again, to keep being positioned in front of your competitors, because you're working in a super competitive market. I talked to a customer the other day that mentioned that they are having 2,500 competitors. They're selling ticketing systems. And we were talking about that sounds rough, that sounds harsh. How are you standing out from your competitors? And that actually led us to this conversation. But one of the things we ended up talking about was as well, there's a lot of pressure on these sales leaders. You probably heard about this as well, Koen, but according to Epsta and Pavilion, 75% of reps missed quota. This is from 2023 stats. We had a decrease on win rates. We had an increase in sales cycle, and we had a small increase on the deal value. So that's at least a plus. But it just goes to show that what a lot of sales reps are doing today that worked necessarily 2-3 years ago aren't working today. And I'm not blaming the reps here. It's also based on, the buyer journey has changed a lot, and we also need to focus on ourselves and say, okay, we did a lot of focus on the sales processes, but have we really aligned it to the way modern buyers want to buy? So this hits all revenue-driven teams and everybody involved in that mechanism, and we have to take this serious. So that's why we wanted to talk about how does deal rooms or digital sales rooms or buyer enablement rooms, you can call it many names, but how does that impact the sales velocity? Meaning, how does it help you increase your win rates so you don't have to have dropping win rates? How does it reduce your sales cycle so you actually get faster to a collaboration with your buyers because you help them, guide them through the process? And how do we ensure that we keep having a good deal value so that we're also, ensuring that those bigger deals are still being closed in a timable manner, so we don't have to start all over when stakeholders are changing roles or whatever happens. So many people are being are changing roles these days. So essentially, dropping into this, we're just going to go head first. But I wanted to hear you before I go into demoing the GetExcel platform, Koen. Sales velocity. You mentioned a little bit how digital sales rooms impacted it, but can you share a little bit of the results, not necessarily, percentages, but what did you start to see?
Yeah. Now, I mean, if we really looked into the data after more than a year using really digital sales rooms, and at some stage we also said, like, for every deal, every open deal, you need to have mandatory digital sales room, because then of course you can eventually really measure impact. And there was a quite clear correlation between, on the one hand, the engagement and the views we saw on the page, on the digital sales room, on the project page, and our win rates. So because again, we also internally get questions like, hey, how do you justify these kind of investments? And I think, again, these were one of the main metrics where we first really looked at. But what I have found very important when it comes also to innovations and tools you're using to eventually lower your sales cycles or upper your win rates, is that you're also looking for qualitative data insights. And I think, so we saw, based on data, indeed, I think there was a very strong correlation between how often and how engaged they were and how many people of the organization was engaged with the digital sales room. We clearly saw a correlation with win rates. But on the other end, I mean, it's also very important when it comes, for instance, sales cycles. We now see that sales cycles take way longer. Why? There are way more stakeholders involved. I'm selling to HR. Typically last year, HR director could sign off contracts up to 100K. Sure, alignment with CFO, but they could really push the entire sale through internally by themselves. Now a CFO or IT is way more and way earlier advanced in the buying cycle. And what then is very important is eventually that you also multi-thread with your own team. So one of the key things where, yes, we have digital sales rooms, but still, for instance, one example, and then I also answer your question, we leveraged the digital sales room as a single point of information for other buyers in the committee to inform them. So what I do a lot with my reps as well, they ask me, hey, could you send an update towards the CEO or CFO or the economic buyer? And then I briefly sent out an email with only one link, which is the digital sales room, and highlighting what I think is really relevant for that specific buyer persona. I think with that, eventually, you also will see win rates and sales cycles. And win rate go up, sales cycles will be shortened, because sales cycles take really long. A lot of information can be missed in the meantime. So therefore, sharing, in this case, an email with the link towards the digital sales room and highlighting what is really important for the stakeholder, that really helped us. And then to that point, because there was like one example, and we are leveraging this specific way of informing other stakeholders with the digital sales room. We use it quite often now. I sent this information towards this CEO multiple times. I updated him really during the cycle. I didn't get any response. Then in the end, they signed a contract. And then I got an email from him like, because of the digital sales room, because of the way you informed me really proactively, that set the stage for me. Actually, who is this vendor? I also want it. So sure, anecdotal, I know. But this is not what I heard once. I heard this multiple times. So yes, I'm looking towards data specifically to really validate, because of course we also are a big organization. So we're looking at the key metrics of influence on win rates, on sales cycles, etc. But as well, the qualitative insights from customers. How did they experience this? And if I then hear, hey, I haven't experienced this before, and the way, and that's more important, the way you approach it, that makes all the difference. That to me were two quantitative and qualitative insights, which really, I mean, for me, validated, hey, we need to keep investing in digital sales rooms, and we need to go towards the next advanced stage of leveraging this software.
All right. Well, you're basically saying it, but yeah, it's anecdotals, but you also saw the increase on win rates. So I mean, that's just super good to hear. I think let's jump into the demo to make sure people get some information on what's going on. And in this case, we're going to talk about case-specific content for higher win rates, so connected to what Koen just shared here. And I prepared a little demo, and me and Koen is going to talk about it. So let me just go into the right screen. Can you see my screen, Koen?
Yes, there it is.
That's lovely. Right, so we're in a digital sales room right now. And what we do is we have a welcome page where we can add in a quick video to recap everything. And you can basically just do it like this. Welcome to the digital sales room. Here's everything is shared for us to get going in our buying journey. And I'm here to answer any questions together with my team. Can't wait to get the collaboration going. You use the information if you want, or you can update it with new. I know this is something that we do a lot in our team, update it with new videos to keep people involved in what's going on. But in here, it's basically set up as a section. So you have the different parts of how you want to structure, how you're communicating to your buyers in the different stages they're at. So you can see there's different stages here that we haven't gotten to yet, because we're not there in our buying circle. But quickly, I can just unhide it by clicking here and show page. And then this will be shown to the buyers that are in this room, which really helps me save time and align in the same process that I want to work. So if we're chosen to work with a sales methodology, enablement can basically set up a structure here that we as sales reps can follow, and we can find resources to quickly personalize it without spending too much time on it. But for the buyer, it's a whole new journey and experience. Wanted to hear your thoughts on this, Koen. I'm just going to stop sharing.
Yeah.
Getting back to you.
Yeah, again, I think it's so obvious. What is the alternative? It's like, should we send again like a bunch of emails of links and PDFs and the entire shebang over email? First, we don't have insights, but more importantly, we really make it more difficult for the buyer to understand where is really the value. So just to bring this on one page, having one template, I think, first of all, it's speed to follow up. So quickly, by having those templates, you can really follow up. I would say, like, ideally same business day, no later than 24 hours prior than the conversation you had. And you really help there to make it more easy to digest all that information for your buyer. So yeah, I mean, this should be the only way. I really don't want to see like emails with 10 links anymore.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think we also done it ourselves. Like, we tried first working with the easy mode, and it took too much time for people to update information after a meeting and get the relevant information out there. And that basically took the breath away from our champions and people out there. It made it much harder for us to actually keep the momentum going.
And maybe the last thing, what I saw, of course, you started now with the video, and I know, I mean, I'm a really big video fan because that's also part of async communication, right? But really make sure when you use digital sales rooms, please make it personal, because otherwise it's a templated stuff you're using and sharing. you saw it like within 10, 15 seconds, you had a very small video, but it makes it very personal who you are.
Yeah.
Add this, please. Like it's simple things, but really makes a lot of difference for being a little bit more personalized and authentic.
We'll send that tip out there. Please use video, guys. The next one, mutual action plans. That was the reason why you guys got started with Digital Sales Room. And I'm just going to go in again and share my screen. And then I'm looking so much forward to hear your feedback on this as well, Koen, because obviously there's so many ways of working with this. People use Excel spreadsheets or other stuff, but we chose to keep it in our product. And in this case, what we're able to do now to speed up the sales velocity is to align with our buyers' timeline of when they want to go live and when they want to start seeing results. And then we can work from there, dissecting what does they need to do in order to get there. We as sales reps are used to be the ones that are selling our product over and over again, but our buyers, as you said, are rarely buying new software like this, unless you're dealing with procurement and they're only part of the process here. So what you really want to do is you want to enable your champions and all those hidden stakeholders you don't get on-air time with to really make sure that they get the full transparency of what they have to go through. And in this case, we have set up the introduction to the team. We created a business case and we presented a business case internally. Now we're going to look into, are we at a commercial alignment where we should look into proposal? Are we a preferred vendor at this stage? And easily here we can go in, we can edit the task, and we can put it on Victoria in this case. She's my champion in this. And I can ask her to do it before Thursday because we have a catch up on Friday where we're going to figure out what is the feedback on this proposal / business case we have added in. And from there, everything is updated. Really making sure people can see what's going on and we can allocate and actually collaborate together with our buyers in the room. Now, this is just a simple showcase of things, but there's more ways to do. You can make tasks, so there's several tasks before you get to a next step. But to keep it simple for this demo, I put it like this. And then again, it doesn't have to stop with the signed contract. You can put in the onboarding and the go live plan in here as well to really make sure you're showing that you care about also doing the impact and not just getting the deal signed, so to say. But Koen, how are you using mutual success plans and action plans?
No, and then like we started the entire digital sales room usage because of mutual action plans. And I think there are two ways. Like I said, like most of the buyers, they are like first-time buyers, and you also as a seller quite quickly want to understand if they are an educated or an uneducated buyer. Because again, like if they don't have the experience, then sales cycles, we saw it like earlier in the metrics, like plus 20%. So you really lose a lot of time on each of your deals, and you're running most likely multiple. So I think by setting the stage with this template, based on the many conversations I've had with peers like yourself, this is typically the steps. The steps we are taking to get towards an implementation and initial impact for yourself. Now, I'm curious, dear buyer, like, hey, what do you think? What steps are we missing based on your information? Who needs to be involved? So you really make it a mutual action plan, because otherwise we will force upon them that this is the mutual action plan we need to follow. And I think that's really risky. You really want to make it a mutual plan, because otherwise you can make tasks, but they feel it really as an assignment to themselves. And you need to have mutual accountability. Hey, me as a seller, Mattias is going to do A, Koen as the buyer, you for the next meeting are going to do B. And if you really set it out clearly in that mutual action plan and you can hold each other accountable, then the second thing will occur. There's the right prep in between the meetings, meaning you make more impact in the meetings which we have, meaning you run quicker towards that cycle. So therefore, with the use of digital sales rooms and mutual accountability to both of us, I think therefore you really can make sure that the sales cycles are way better in control. And that's typically also what I've seen on my side, the reps who are really using constantly the mutual action plan as, hey, this is what we are driving for the next meeting. This is what we are doing in between. That eventually drives that they are also accurate with their forecasting, because they know when eventually a deal will land, yes or no.
Yeah, good point with the forecasting. That's obviously something sales leaders are super interested in as well and sales reps, so they don't sit there in the last days and hoping for the signature to come because they haven't actually created full alignment on what needs to happen before getting that signature in. We have a question on a mutual action plan. Do you have a base one, but then work through that, and add the needs of the customer steps? Yeah, Koen, I'd like you to share what your guys are doing.
Yeah, no, I think this one again, you will be amazed. We are selling towards HR, and HR typically in fast-growing companies, let's say they're not like big teams. So and the tenure within those companies are also not very long. So again, for what I've seen, there's a lot of uneducated buyers. By the way, if we have an educated buyer, it goes very smooth and very fast because they really know what they want and love to work with them. But when it comes to an uneducated buyer, then maybe there's not much input from their side because they typically just don't know which steps they need to take internally. So therefore, we really use this template mutual action plan. So like, hey, based on, again, similar customers like yourself, these are the steps needed for yourself. Do we have an educated buyer? Different, because then indeed we can really go with them on, hey, this is what we have seen so far, but I see you already 15 years in the space. I see you already working for 4 years in this company. What is typically needed internally to get this done? And then, of course, by only listening, you're just together updating your mutual action plan, and you have a way more accurate mutual action plan than your default. So this is at least the learnings from our side.
Yeah. So again, selling with your buyers instead of selling to your buyers, really collaborating. So to answer your question, Samantha, it's essentially about having a framework you can help guide them. Then you figure out if they're an educated or non-educated buyer by involving them and asking them to be part of, where did I miss a step? What else do you guys need? And from there, you then start to customize it into a full customizable action plan that are basically following their best path, because they obviously know their organization sometimes when they're an educated buyer, but other times they don't. So we have to come with some sort of a framework, and then from there, kind of ask for their input of where we missed the mark, and then work from there.
Yeah, but like the last thing on this one, always validate. I think we as sellers, we assume too much. That's always like the biggest F up to do. And what we should not indeed always go over and really get them input, because nothing is wrong, more wrong than having a mutual action plan. You think you are at a certain stage, but they know they still need to go towards 2 or 3 extra cycles. You have it forecasted. Your manager will be very mad. You just don't have control, which you could prevent by really spending time early on with this mutual action plan. So that's like what we typically do as well. We directly after the first meeting create a mutual of like the digital sales room. We share it immediately with the fan, which hopefully will become a champion. And we go over it. What are we really missing? Hey, is this our mutual plan? Yes. Okay, from here, we take this as the get-go on the next steps. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I see, Mattias, there's a question indeed about the tracking, if buyers or prospects want to opt out, how that works.
Yeah, we don't give an opt-out possibility when it comes to the digital sales room, and it's for a number of reasons. But the number one reason is that we are part of enabling our buyers to do this together with them. If they don't prefer to do it in a room, we can just do it on email, of course, but that's a plan B fallback. And I've even had some customers buying the digital sales room that were in that phase. And I'm like, well, okay, that's fine. But this is probably, something that happens, I would say 2 times, 3 times in my career, and this is over 5 years. So it is something that can happen. But again, we also have to, it's about making it buyer-centric, right? If they don't see the value in us putting them into a room, we've done something wrong, and maybe we need to figure out how we're actually able to. So I think that's where I see a lot of digital sales room implementations going wrong, is that they're just buying the tool, or they're maybe just starting alone with a trial, but they're all alone by themselves, and they haven't gotten the best training into how to actually engage the buyer into using it. And it's a big shame, because digital sales rooms, the numbers are showing it is working, but also from the buyer side, it is something that makes it easier for them. But we have to be buyer-centric about it, and that takes a certain level of training to get to, I would say, because we've been so sales-focused for a period of time. Yep. So you just have to be what does Nick call it? He calls it a thoughtful salesperson, I think, is his framing. So that's a quick answer to yours, Sas. We can always go into depth if you want to go deeper with me on, why is this an issue? And for the contracting part, it's possible to disable that. I want to go through the last piece of the puzzle for keeping sales velocity, and also one of our differentiators when it comes to our competitors out in the market. It's the quoting part of things. And before I go into demoing, I think it would be fun to just hear your thoughts on this, Koen, because I normally used to say, well, when you're sending out a contract, it's just about getting it signed. But then I realized that there's tools out there and ways people are working where it's really actually a struggle to get people to use this, and it's friction. There's a lot of friction because there's errors and they have to send out a new version of it and they can't edit it after send and stuff like that. But what's your experience of quoting, and why is it important for the sales velocity?
Eventually you want to make sure if you expecting the last signature on the contract, that there are just no single doubts anymore, right? It's like, hey, I trust that when I put my signature under a contract for 3 years for 100k ACV, 300k overall TCO, like the total cost of ownership, boof, I will sign off. Meaning, if I still have a question towards the champion who sells us internally, hey, where I'm signing for, with one click, they can go back towards, hey, this is here the business case. This is where we started. Oh, but with who am I going to start with? But this is the video of Koen, the seller. Or what we typically do a lot is we are in our presentation or in our deals rooms, we present each member of our internal selling team. Like, hey, this is indeed like the seller, this is the implementation manager, this is customer success, even up to our CRO, who sometimes is also involved, especially when it comes to larger deals. Like, hey, this is the trusty team where you sign up for. So you want to take away any burden for freaking get that contract out. So I think therefore having this integrated journey really makes sense. And I've seen it too many times also with DocuSign, of course, going wrong. Or it's end up in spam or other things. You really want to prevent this, especially when it's the last 2 days of the month or quarter, and you have all the unnecessary stress on your shoulders.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate your insights. I'm just quickly going to show how this works, and then we have some time for Q&A, and then we're basically then we're done, everyone. Let me see here. So we're going into the contract. We're making sure everything is as it is. Again, depending on whether you're using HubSpot, Salesforce, or whatever CRM you're doing, you can do merge text, and it takes the data directly from the CRM, so you don't have to fill in this, saving you time to get the quote out and also making it error-free. The same goes with the products you see here. You can take it as line items, or if in case you're not able to use line items from your CRM, you can basically put in these products in GetAccept's product library and then add it in quickly. Also from here, there's options to make it variable. So in this case, I want to make sure that my customer can go in and choose if they're not sure how many products they need of this product too. When they receive it, they can choose from 5 and up until, because it says here, if they go below 5, that's not possible. I set the scene for it. So there's a lot of small CPQ elements to it where you can really utilize and make it, again, super frictionless, but still have collaborating buyer experiences where they can put in part of the end proposal for you. We also have a signing order. So essentially, we can have an internal approver that will have to approve a certain deal above X amount of money. And we also have a signing order, meaning Koen has to sign this before Victoria sees it and so forth. So again, all this can be set up. But the beautiful part of this is that all this connects. So if I go into my platform here and I continue editing, now I prepared the proposal. I've cheated a little bit, as they do in the cooking shows. And I'll show the section here. And from here, I just add in the contract. Boom, there is there. I've signed it already. Now I'm just waiting.
Mattias, like that part we can't see on the screen. Like we are still seeing the business proposal page.
Appreciate that. Okay, of course. Well, something always has to happen on these calls, right?
Hey, come on. We remain human, right?
So I would go in here and I would basically upload it and then put it in here as my contract, just through a link that's basically what I did. We have a contract link, and then it uploads here, and then you can see I've signed it. I'm still waiting for Koen. He's reviewing it, and Victoria hasn't even gotten it yet. And Maria, that was from Sales Ops, she's still waiting to get an insight into how does this actually work when they've signed the contract. All right. Without further ado, I wanted to open up for some Q&A in case anybody has more questions left. If not, I really want to thank you all. This has been super interesting for me to be part of. I'm looking forward to going deeper with you guys in these webinar series. And of course, feel free to share the word and the messaging. And after this, you'll be allocated to an interactive demo where you can actually get accept in depth for yourselves, where you can basically try to experience it. And of course, you're always welcome to reach out to us if you want to start some dialogues about any questions or concerns you have, because concerns are out there. I think if there's no Q&A questions, the biggest concern I hear is that, can I get customers to engage in this? And I think that would be my question for you, Koen. Like, how do you ensure that you get customers engaged in these digital sales rooms as early as possible?
Yeah, I think the answer with any kind of content which we as a vendor send out towards prospects is make it personal, make it relevant. It needs to be relevant for that person, and it needs to be digestible. So I think we as sales organizations tend to send way too much information, which is not always very relevant. Been there, done that myself. I still do that sometimes. I think we need to be really like less is more. And it needs to be engaged. Like if it's just like a digital sales room which is fully templated, I see that, right? So it's not to my case. It's not to me specifically. So I think where can you add that piece of relevance for your spot person, your eventually champion, for the industry or the organization they are working in? I think that's really important. So for me, that's typically that's a video content. I use a lot of video and personalized stuff in the digital sales room. And still, like I said, like then I leverage over email to get engagement back into the digital sales room, or share the link for the digital sales room over a LinkedIn message to see if I can get people back into the digital sales room, because that should be the number one source of communication. So these things would really suggest for others that works for us at least.
Yeah, and I fully agree with you. Again, I see Samantha and Georgie are there asking a question about, huge mix of customers. Some are engaging well, others aren't ready to move from email. How are we tackling this? I can, of course, say a lot from our experience, but I think the first one is that make sure you voice it when you're talking to your customers. Like, make sure to tell them. You can find everything here in the link. Make sure you tell why that is helpful for them, how it enables them to communicate this on, how you're making it easy for them to sell this as a priority internally. And our experience and also our customers' experience are from an SDR to an AE. And when you have the sales process, when it starts here, it's more cumbersome to get people involved in the digital sales room. Once you have the first meeting and you get into the second meeting, you start to see the engagement in the room go up, and also the number of stakeholders increased. But I would say we're also starting to see teams that are using this on an SDR level to break through the noise. But it's really about making sure that you're sending out these rooms to a well-prepared audience, because you've told them that you're sending out a link and why they should access it. If you just do it by, sending out a link without any context, chances are it will be looked as spam and it wouldn't be opened.
Yeah, and maybe the last thing to add, like, be consistent, right? If this is the way you want to communicate with buyers and your prospects, make sure that even though you're sent out an email and you want to share any kind of piece of extra information, refer back to what's the sales room constantly. Just make always sure that in any email, there's only one link, which is digital sales room. So eventually, if they are really bought in, they will go to watch that digital sales room. If not, maybe that's a sign that it's not the right deal. You should not work on it any longer. So maybe that's just a good sign of qualifying out if they're not willing to engage with relevant content, which is on the digital sales room.
Yeah, no, spot on. Great as well for helping to disqualify. Koen, I want to thank you for your time. For the rest of you, next webinar is going to be with Nate Nasrallah. We're going to go deeper into business cases. It's going to be the 2nd of October, and it's going to be at 4 p.m. Central European time. And I'm just looking so much forward to dig deeper on these subjects with you. Koen, thank you so much. A warm thank you for your effort in this. I know I'm not always easy to control, and you did very well on this one as well.
Yeah, no, all good. And I will definitely get on the Zoom call on the call with Nate. I mean, I follow Nate already for 2-3 years, and he's like really. If people want to learn how to build business cases with digital sales rooms, then definitely watch that one. I think he's the key advocate on this topic. So I will be there for sure as a guest, Mattias.
I respect that, and thank you so much. Have a nice day, everybody.